to boost its presence in the northernmost islands of the country.
Several deepfake content of President Bongbong Marcos giving orders against China's harassment in the West Philippine Sea has been circulating online. Now, where do we draw the line on AI-based information or misinformation? We'll discuss this with DICT Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso later in the show.
And the government is now considering a dedicated motorcycle lane along EDSA to ease worsening traffic along the major thoroughfare, but senators are calling for caution.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Riza Diaz.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Well, straight off, our top story for today, the Balikatan Exercises 2024 officially opens. And this time, U.S. and Philippine troops are taking their drills right to the edge of our country's exclusive economic zone.
But just before, it even began, Chinese ships were already spotted patrolling the waters near Palawan.
That's right, Riza. We're going to get the details on that from Brian Castillo. What do you have for us tonight, Brian?
That's right, ladies. 2 Chinese ships were reportedly spotted near Palawan on the eve of this year's Balikatan exercises between the Philippines and the U.S. These satellite images shared by U.S. maritime expert Ray Powell shows that there are 2 Chinese militia ships some 30 nautical miles away from Rizal, Palawan. Eventually, the ships headed to the Mischief Reef in the West Philippine Sea. They were spotted on Sunday, just a day before the Balikatan exercises, which, as you mentioned, opened earlier today. In the opening ceremony, the AFP says they cannot confirm nor deny the satellite images presented by Powell. But the military says they do expect China to make its presence felt during the conduct of the Balikatan.
We would expect some presence of the Chinese side also because they have built their structures in these areas. I think we wouldn't see any problem so long as we follow international law and follow our mutually agreed cooperative mechanisms.
Over 6,000 Filipino and American soldiers are participating in what is known to be one of the biggest iteration of the joint military exercise. Aside from training, the Balikatan also aims to show the stronger alliance between the Philippines and the U.S. This is the first time that the Balikatan will be held outside the Philippines' territorial waters, right at the edge of the exclusive economic zone. Aside from Palawan, there will also be joint military drills in northern Luzon. Part of these drills is training in the event that the Philippines needs to reclaim an island within its own territory. This training will be held in Batanes, the Philippine island closest to Taiwan. The French Navy will also join the sea exercises.
We understand the importance of maritime cooperation in addressing the complex challenges that threaten peace and security in our region. Together, alongside our like-minded partners, we are fully committed to upholding a stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
For the first time, 6 Philippine Coast Guard ships will also participate. They are tasked to block vessels that will attempt to intrude in the maritime exercise. The AFP reiterates, though, that the Balikatan is not aimed at any one country.
It's more of the development of our interoperability, our collective effort, protection of international law, and make sure that the freedom of navigation in these areas goes freely and not impeded by any other parties in the process.
For the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, the Balikatan is a proof of the stronger cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines.
In doing so, we will demonstrate that the Mutual Defense Treaty between the United States and the Republic of the Philippines is no mere piece of paper.
Meanwhile, protests were held just as the Balikatan exercise kicks off. Some progressive groups headed outside the AFP camp along EDSA to condemn the joint exercises. They say the U.S. is only using the Philippines' land and water to serve their own interests. Ladies, ahead of the joint drills, China has also warned against countries flexing of quote-unquote gunboat muscles at sea. This year's Balikatan exercise will run until May 10. Ladies?
News 5's Brian Castillo, thank you. Now, in the middle of all that tension in the West Philippine Sea, the Group of 7 or G7 nations called out China for its, quote, intimidation activities in the South China Sea. In a communique issued on Friday, foreign ministers of G7 states say that they continue to oppose China's dangerous use of Coast Guard and maritime militia in the West Philippine Sea. They also voiced out opposition against Beijing's, quote, repeated obstruction of countries' high seas freedom of navigation. The group of advanced democracies also expressed serious concerns about the increasing use of dangerous maneuvers and water cannons against Philippine vessels. The G7 also expressed support for the 2016 arbitral ruling that favored the Philippines and invalidated China's 9-line claim in the South China Sea. The G7 represents the world's leading industrialized democracies, and it is composed of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US. For its part, the Philippines welcomes the G7 statement of support. The Foreign Affairs Department says they want to see a South China Sea of peace, stability, and prosperity. They also condemn the interference, obstruction, and harassment of the Philippines' legal activities that are within our recognized maritime entitlements. But as expected, China is not happy with the G7 statement. Earlier today, China's foreign ministry called for the group of 7 to stop interfering in what they call Beijing's internal affairs.
The G7 foreign ministers meeting insisted on manipulating the China-related agenda, ignoring the facts and confusing right from wrong, wantonly interfering with China's internal affairs. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to this. Our advice to the G7 is to change the old habit of blaming others, immediately stop interfering in other countries' internal affairs, and undermining other countries' development, and work with the international community to uphold peace, promote cooperation, and promote development.
Talking about water cannon incidents, we had Balikatan Executive Agent Mike Lohico, Colonel Mike Lohico, a while ago on Storycon. Tinanong namin kung lalapit ba yung joint sale sa Ayungin Shoal. And he said he didn't want to detail where exactly, basta he said western side of Palawan, to the west of Palawan, outside the territorial sea within the EEZ. So, pwedeng sa may Spratis yun.
It's possible.
At tinanong namin, meron ba kayong parameters what to do in case the joint sale gets water cannon? Ang sabi niya, I don't think they would be stupid enough to do
try
it. Yun ang sabi niya.
Well, I guess it's another, again, isa pang wait and see. Tignan natin.
Isa pang wait and see. And speaking of wait and see, we also asked Colonel Mike Lohico what the plans are for the Balikatan exercises in the Batanes group of islands are. Ang sabi niya, he doesn't want to detail also. He says it's for, to be able to practice what to do in certain scenarios, leading towards archipelagic defense.
Correct.
And speaking of that, improvements to the Batanes military outpost in Mavulis Island are currently underway. A day before the Balikatan exercises officially began, several Philippine Air Force generals visited the northernmost island of the country. I actually strung along with them, and there I witnessed generals surveying for the construction of a possible third helipad site. They also bared the Navy's plans to improve the island's port to be able to deliver heavy construction materials to the area. Mavulis is currently uninhabited, holding only a military outpost, a fisherman's shelter, a desalination plant, 2 helipads, and a Philippine flag hoisted in one of its highest points. The island is a vital frontier as it borders the Bashi Channel with Taiwan, a strategic choke point for vessels going to and from the Western Pacific to the South China Sea. In August of 2023, a Reuters report said that the U.S. military was in talks to develop a civilian port in Batanes to help bring in cargo through rough seas. Secretary of National Defense Gibo Chodoro, however, called for the development of more structures in Batanes to increase military presence. Are these preparations, though, for a possible conflict up north? Here's what the Air Force had to say.
Para magawa yung mga construction doon ng mga kailangan gawin. Kasi kailangan natin ng mga heavy equipment. Makita mo naman yung terrain, hindi siya flat. Makita mo yung natin yung mga structures tayo na hindi pa talaga prepared. So, kailangan ayusin pa siya. Pati yung mga helipads natin na medyo na-damage. Wala naman talaga siyang pinaghahandaan para doon. Para lang talaga siya maging isang credible na naval policy. Magagamit din ng Air Force, pagdating pa sa mga helicopter natin.
So, bukod-
Magdala ng supply.
Yun. So, ako makikita mo doon sa Mabulis, meron na kasing dalawa doon na helipad. Yung isa medyo damaged. So, I guess that
Ayusin
needs
na lang.
Oo, repair. But mapapatanong ka rin, bakit helipad yung priority? Kasi yung desalination plant niya, nasira na. So, yung tubig, isa sa mga problem nila, nasira siya last year. Sinasabi nila, tinitipid nila yung fresh water nila for pangluto tsaka pang-inom. So, yung soldiers natin doon, they don't get to take a bath every day.
Yes.
And yun nga, ang sabi sa akin, yung helipad is going to be constructed atop the mountain doon siya sa taas. Sabi ko, is it because of access? Kasi medyo mahirap.
Right.
Malakas yung wind, di ba? Nagsabi nila, it's for more troops daw to come in. But also, bukod doon, yung supplies para mas madaling ma-deliver.
transport.
So ang tanong dyan, is it, is it really preparations for possible conflict?
Ako lang para sa akin lang, yung Batanes, ang tagal ko rin naging weather reporter dati. Lagi siyang nasasalanta ng bagyo. At that point in time, pag malakas yung mga alon, mahirap din magdala ng mga So, at the very least, diba, it's still a drop-off point for potential relief goods,
That's true.
supplies,
That's true.
etc.
Yes.
And sa akin lang, pag nakikita mo na dinedevelop yung mga sira-sirang mga facilities natin, medyo okay rin naman siya. Ang pangit din naman tignan that it's really broken. And if it was there before, obviously, there was something there na before.
Totoo. Well, it's good that, kasi yung sinasabi nga nila, yung Bashi Channel, choke point yan. Kung na-control ng Chinese yung Bashi Channel, wala nang dadaanan yung international shipping.
Correct.
Doon lang talaga
So kung
sila
may imagine
dumaan.
natin,
Oo.
yung Pilipinas, tignan nyo siya sa map, yung sa right side, yun yung Pacific Ocean, sa left side yung South China Sea o West Philippine Sea. Dadaan sila sa taas, doon sa bandang Batanes, sa gitna ng
Yun,
Batanes
doon.
and Taiwan. May maliit na channel doon. In fact, on a clear day, from that point in Taiwan, you can kind of see yung mga bato-bato ng Batanes from afar. So yun, tama ka, Gretch. Meron nga talagang choke point doon. It's not very big either. So pwede siyang possible.
Ito nga to, pinapakita ko, kasi tinanong ko rin kamusta yung mga sundalo natin doon. Sabi ko nga, di ba, hindi sila nariligo araw-araw. Alam mo kung paano sila nariligo?
No.
Sa dagat, pag walang tubig, tapos yung sabon hindi bumubula sa
correct.
dagat.
Because
So,
of
kailangan,
us.
yung shampoo lang, pag sobrang dami, yun na bumubula. So, pag wala silang choice, magbo-wipes na lang sila after taking a bath.
Para matanggal yung asin.
Para matanggal yung asin. Ayun. Tapos, nagdala kami ng Krispy Kreme. Ay, sorry, ng donuts. Sorry. Nagdala kami ng matamis kasi puro maalat doon. So, kung may mag-donate dyan, paayos yung desalination plant at magdala ng matatamis o kaya ng karne. Pwede rin. Kasi puro isda sila
Well,
doon.
hopefully, along with the repair and the construction of a new helipad, ayusin na rin yung desalination or water treatment plant there sa may Mabulis.
Pero ang sabi sa akin, ipaayos doon ng Americans yung desalination plant.
Sana.
At ang sabi rin sa akin, ito lang, there's a big story naman tayo, di ba? That local consultations are underway in Batanes on the possible impact of people coming in.
Ito ba yung
to the
tourist?
culture. So ngayon, kasi kung ina-assess nila yung
Right.
impact, it must not be related to the Balikatan exercises, which are just 2 weeks.
Correct.
Right?
Mas para
So,
kumbaga something a little bit more permanent.
yeah, this is being eyed also as one of the potential access points of American troops. So
I don't think it should be seen into that light na pang-defense lang din siya. It should be, the improvement of military facilities is always a must. diba? Right. Well, in other news, the Philippines had another state visit from a top official. This time, it was the Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. With this, the Malacanang announced that President Bongbong Marcos signed 9 agreements with the Emir of Qatari during their meeting earlier today. The Emir arrived on Manila on Sunday, April 21st for his 2-day state visit. The two leaders had a bilateral meeting where they discussed a range of topics which are meant to improve the relations of the Philippines and Qatar. Now, some of the agreements include an agreement between the Philippines and Qatar on the waiver of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic and special or official passports. The two countries also have a memorandum of understanding on different fields which include sports, combating human trafficking, tourism and business events, and recognition of seafarers' certificates. The President and the Qatari Emir also signed a Memorandum of Understanding between the Philippines Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Qatar Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as Memorandum of Understanding between the Davao City Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Qatar Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Now, Qatar is home to around 242,000 Filipinos. Remittances from Qatar to the Philippines amounts to over $895 million in 2022. Now, formal relations between the two countries span 43 years following their formal establishment on May 5, 1981.
The Philippines is an important partner for us in many fields, especially in trade and economic cooperation. And we aspire to improve these relations through increased communication between the private sector in both the countries.
Up next, President Bongbong Marcos' voice was used on a deepfake YouTube channel which gave out marching orders amid tensions in the West Philippine Sea. We'll discuss this further when the big story returns. Stay with us.
Giving out marching orders amid the heated tensions in the West Philippine Sea. Let's listen into this.
Nagbigay na po ako ng go signal sa ating mga kinatawan na gawin ang nararapat gawin kung sakaling umatake ulit ang puwersa ng China. Hindi ko na po mapapayagan pa na mas maraming Pilipino ang masaktan sa laban na ito. We cannot compromise even a single individual just to protect what is rightfully belongs to us. Kung umatake ang China, atakehin din nila.
Again, to clarify, that was not President Bongbong Marcos himself giving those orders, but a rather deepfake content which was used to spread false information.
The question now is, where do we draw the line between content and spreading false information? Let's discuss this further with DICT Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso. Asec, good evening, and thank you for joining us again so soon.
Good evening, Gretchen, Sean, Riza. Thanks for having me again. It's nice seeing you guys. Not so nice under the same circumstances.
Suki na natin.
At least we're not talking about the hacking incident, but
Yes.
in a sense, it sort of is. It's sort of like a hacking of somebody's voice. Let's
sure.
start it off, Asec Aboy, with the DICT's position on deepfakes, and not just any deepfake, but deepfakes such as this, using the president's voice.
Well, for the ICT, it's always troubling. It's always a cause for concerns. That's why the ICT is in coordination with our security sectors as well. We always discuss this, particularly in this particular scenario, that it involves the national security, it involves the public welfare. So we take it very seriously, and we coordinate with all government sectors, especially the security sector.
We touched upon this a little bit a while ago in Storycon about the cybercrime law. Can those who use deepfakes be arrested under law, and under what circumstances?
Well, yes. In the cybercrime law, or the RA 10175, there are two particular provisions that come into mind. Section 4, which enumerates a lot of cybercrime offenses, particularly paragraph B and C, which revolves around computer-related fraud and computer-related identity theft. If that doesn't fall within those two, there's a catch-all provision under Section 6 of the same law, which is any crimes that fall under the revised penal code or punished by the revised penal code shall be punished by the cybercrime law to 1 degree higher. And under the revised penal code, there is Article 154, which deals with illegal publication.
Okay, Asec, just to get your thoughts, currently, Cavite Representatives Lani Mercado Revilla and Ramon Revilla and Brian Revilla, they actually filed House Bill number 9425, which proposes to penalize deepfakes, basically, to establish clear parameters to determine the appropriate legal consequences for deepfake-related actions. In your opinion, what you just said to Gretchen's question, or your reply to Gretchen's question, means that it can be punished already? Do we need to go one step higher than the one step higher that you mentioned, and and craft legislation, for AI-related deepfakes?
Because there are a lot of actions that are not yet contemplated, because you have to remember that our revised penal code was crafted way back. But these development in technologies, such as the creation of AI, the use of AI, the certain cyber ethics or ethical standards.
Hello, Asec. Hi, I think you froze.
Sana naman di tayo na-hack. Dahil sa guest natin, ano? Oo, pero nakwento sa atin ni Asec Aboy kanina that they are already coordinating with these platforms, YouTube to be specific, holding yung dapat balita, no? Ni-report na, pero nag-aantay pa na ma-take down or ma-penalize yung page.
We have Asec Aboy back. Yes, Asec, sorry, naputol ka. Bigla kang nag-hang.
I know. Baka naman may nangahack na rin sa atin.
Oo nga. Napraning tuloy kami. But carry on.
But again, there are certain, going back to the answer to the question, there are certain acts that have to be addressed pa rin when it comes to new legislation. You have to remember the revised penal code was crafted way before. Even the newest act penalizing computer-related crimes was crafted way back 2012. The enforcement was way back 2012. Now, the development in AI has a lot of new dynamics to it, such as setting ethical standards for the use of AI, what certain acts that, for example, the creation of AI for fraud, the creation of AI, hindi yun nako-contemplate yan ng mga batas pa ho natin. So I do think there is either a new legislation or an update to the old legislation that has to be contemplated and enacted in order to address these ever-growing concerns when it comes to deepfakes and the misuse of AI.
Do we need graver consequences for content that deal with national security? Because what this reminds me of is, for example, sa aeroplano, sa airport, pinag-joke ka ng may bomba,
Right.
medyo malala yung consequence doon or yung penalties.
50,000 pesos.
In the same way, this one also could possibly trigger a war. What is your take on that?
Tama ho. Kasi kung pagbabasayan natin yung lumang batas sa Article 154, arresto mayor lang ho. I-take it one step further, it's still not that harsh. As you said, you're dealing with the people's lives. You're dealing with international relations, and you're dealing with possible catastrophes that would be the consequences of war. So yeah, I do subscribe to the idea that there should be stricter penalties when it comes to national security. And the treasonous treasonous actions. So yeah, I do subscribe to that.
So currently wala pa tayo nun. That is not yet in place. Okay.
And Asec, how dangerous is this that may mga ganitong content, especially the 2025 polls are coming up. What would prevent, other than that, stepping up itong mga penalties and all?
Also, what are the potential abuses
Correct.
during election time that you are forecasting?
Yeah, matagal na ho namin sinasabi to. There needs to be some. Again, this goes into the legislative phase of government na kailangan ho kasama do sa ika-craft nila legislation, and hopefully soon yung kasama ho yung electoral fraud, kasi nakikita na ho natin magagamit ang AI sa pag-mamanipula or pag-susway sa ating mga botante in order to vote for or more possibly against a certain individual. Nakikita na ho natin to. In fact, I was in discussion with a private group, Scamwatch, na ito ho ang sinusulong nilang amendahan ng ating batas. At talagang, if not legislation very soon, hopefully it would come out sa rules soon ng COMELEC when it comes to the 2025 polls.
Okay. And of course, Asec, as we know, there's only so much we can do from a policy point of view, from a law enforcement point of view. The best, I think, defense against these things is for us to be discerning. Pero hindi rin yun ganun kadali. Asec, as you would know, are there currently any initiatives from the DICT maybe to educate people? I'm not really sure, what we can actionably do apart from people really, being discerning.
Is there a program that can help us spot these
like an
deepfakes?
app, maybe a third-party app?
Yun na nga ho, as we were discussing kanina do sa isang programa nyo, I think Gretchen was there. We're constantly in discussion with these social media platforms, because these deepfakes, these fake news need a platform wherein they may catapult their ideas and mislead the people. So ayoko naman ho pangunahan sila, pero ang masasabi ko lang ho ay they're very cooperative and they're very receptive to the ideas of government and addressing these challenges and concerns. And I think in the very near future, they will be coming up with new policies when it comes to deepfakes and AI-generated content. Gaya ho na sabi nyo, para ho malaman natin ano yung AI-generated, ano ho yung totoo. So hopefully that comes out soon.
Asec, naalala ko kasi ito, marami itong mga deepfake na to sa X, specifically with the Israel-Gaza conflict. Maraming lumalabas na videos na hindi mo na alam, hindi mo na ma-discern kung nangyari ba yun talaga. What does X do about it? For one, TikTok, I know they are quite active in taking down videos. Yung ginagawa ng X, ginagawa ng YouTube, ginagawa ng Facebook, ano yung mga actions nila when it comes to deepfakes?
Well, I wouldn't want to jeopardize yung sila ho mag-aano sa mga steps nila. But one thing I can say, the problem here is all across the board, we don't have any jurisdiction over them. So talagang ginagawa lang ho natin ay constant dialogues, constant coordination with them. And again, with some of the platforms, excluding X, ang X ho talaga, wala ho talagang offices dito, wala ho sila representative na nakakausap po, lalong-lalo na ang DICT. So, but with the other platforms, they're very proactive, they're very receptive nga, gaya ho na sinabi natin, na talagang not only taking down, but tailor-fitting their community guidelines in order to address the needs of the Filipinos and to address this particular challenge when it comes to deepfakes and fake news.
Okay. Uulitin ko lang kasi kanina medyo malabo yung phone patch po natin. Kung ako po ay nagaya, nagkaroon ako ng deepfake video, somebody made that about me or with me,
Yes.
what do I do? What are the steps? Asec, medyo nawala po yung audio nyo. Okay, one more
Okay
time.
na po.
Okay na
Ayan,
po.
okay na.
Okay. Well, nagsususpecha na tuloy ako. Pero sige.
Dalawang beses na.
Pero yan nga, each individual platform po, iba-iba po ang kanilang mga community guidelines and iba-iba rin ho ang level of strictness when it comes to taking down these contents and their response time. All I can say is that they're exerting efforts in order to tailor-fit their community guidelines. So katulad ho, banggitin ko na ho, ang Meta who owns Facebook. Ngayon ho talaga nagpupursige sila, lalong-lalo na alam nila yung challenges ng ating society, the Filipino society, given we are one of their biggest markets here when it comes to deepfakes and fake news. I think they're
Okay, Asec, pangatlong beses na po kayo
Mukhang
nawala. Okay. But I think we get the point.
Right.
Yung cybersecurity talaga, yun kasi sabi nila yun na yung laban, no? The fight over
It's the new
ages.
frontier and it's
Yes.
really quick, no? It changes so
But
fast. Maghahabulan tayo.
Well, Asec says that they are in coordination with these platforms. I hope they do act faster than the rate that these posts would go viral because we can see how
Right. How many
it can
views
affect.
in so many number of minutes, di ba?
And just 30 months to
kanina
before the
pinakita sa amin
elections.
ni Bok na may
Okay,
website na.
let's thank the Assistant Secretary of the DICT, Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We're gonna pause for a quick break for now. Right after that, Vice President Marian Enriquez, Maan, what did VP Sara have to say?
Sean, the political saga continues with Vice President Sara Duterte responding to the First Lady's controversial interview. The Vice President said she's opting for a private talk with the President on the matter.
Bilang tao, karapatan ni unang ginang Lisa Marcos na makaramdam ng sama ng loob at galit. Subalit, ang kanyang personal na damdamin ay walang kinalaman sa aking mandato bilang isang opisyal ng pamahalaan. Upang makausad tayo, iiwan na natin sa isang pribadong pag-uusap sa pagitan lamang namin ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos Jr. ang mga susunod na hakbang.
The Vice President didn't say much other than the need to focus on the country's more pressing problems.
Patuloy ang pagtaas ng presyo ng pagkain at iba pang mga bilihin. Nagbabadya rin ang kakulangan ng supply ng tubig at kuryente, habang talamak na naman ang ipinagbabawal na droga. Samantala, hindi pa rin natatapos ang banta ng kriminalidad, terorismo at insurhensiya sa ating bansa.
First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos earlier made headlines for confirming that her relationship with VP Sara had turned sour. This is after the Vice President attended a prayer rally calling for the President's resignation last January. The First Lady didn't mince her words, saying bad shot na sa kanya si VP Sara. Political analyst and former presidential advisor Ronald Llamas said the scale-up in tension is already expected. Llamas has been predicting an open warfare between the Marcoses and the Dutertes this year. He said having the First Lady speak up is a calculated move on the side of the chief executive.
Yung cabinet kasi, usually ito yung first line of defense ng presidente. Pero dahil may political vacuum, no? Wala masyadong nagdedepensa sa presidente kundi yung sarili niya, no? Wala yung mga layers na usually meron pag ikaw ay presidente. Yung first lady ang pumupuno sa role na yan. Parang siya yung nagiging fulcrum sa Malacanang. Meron niyang approval kung ano ba yung pwedeng tanong, ano yung hindi. No? Alam niyo naman yan eh. Kaya definitely, this is calculated, this is calibrated, and as such, meron niyang abiso o pahintulot ng presidente. Lalo na, very close naman silang mag-asawa.
Sean, with more and more supposed cracks in the unit team showing, there's also growing calls for VP Sara to resign as DepEd chief. Some representatives at the lower house are also urging the president to reconsider VP Sara's position in his cabinet, especially if they are no longer seeing eye to eye over key policies. Sean.
Thanks so much for that, Maan Enriquez.
Alright, lipat naman tayo sa Public Works and Transportation. The EDSA Kamuning flyover southbound will be closed to motorists for 6 months of repair works. That's beginning May 1st to October 25. The flyover's southbound portion will undergo retrofitting as part of preventive measures for major earthquakes. Now, initial repair works will start on April 25, so expect traffic buildup by then. The MMDA is advising motorists to use the alternate routes and plan trips ahead to avoid getting stuck in traffic. Meanwhile, the Transportation Department is considering a designated lane for motorcycles in EDSA. Now, initial discussions on this new scheme are still underway, but so far, the DOTR said they're looking to set up the motorcycle lane next to the bike lane.
Let's get the conversation on motorcycle lanes going with Jobert Bolanos, chairman of the Motorcycle Rights Organization. Good evening, Chairman.
Good evening, ladies, and good evening to all the viewers.
Okay, here we go. It's not Commonwealth this time, but EDSA. What is your reaction to this? We know back then you were opposing and trial run pa lang yung nasa Commonwealth. Ano ba yung naging resulta nun? And what does that mean applying that to the EDSA?
Well, the motorcycle lane has been here since 2012 when it started. And it has been under study from different levels and from different administrations. And the truth is it hasn't done anything good for any situation on EDSA. Now, on Commonwealth, they started it again, and again, as predicted, the exclusivity has not been fairly approached or implemented in any way. So when we see them doing operations on Commonwealth, they focus on the motorcycles leaving the lane, but they do not focus on the other vehicles who take up the lane when they're not supposed to. So we
Let
see
me
this
interrupt.
disparity.
Because actually, to be fair to everyone on the road, nobody sticks to their lanes. And
Yes.
that's everyone, right? So it's not just the motorcycle lanes going out of their lane or the cars going into the motorcycle lane, or for that matter, the bicycle lane. There's people also jaywalking. Ano ba talaga yung solusyon na hindi ini-implement?
Well, here's what people are forgetting. There's a problem, and that problem is traffic. And when you approach a problem, you look at the root cause of the problem. And the root cause is discipline. And discipline is a shared responsibility of all, not just motorcycle riders, not just pedestrians, not just car drivers, but also in the public transport sector. So what needs to be done here is first focus on the existing laws, implement them properly, implement them strictly, make sure that everybody follows the laws, enforce it, and then penalize and make accountable those who violate these laws, regardless of what kind of vehicle they use. And with that, we bring back discipline on the streets, because right now there is no discipline, and the lack of it is getting worse every day. We had hoped that the strictness in issuance of licenses would help, but it has done very little. And right now, it's just worse. I mean, the volume is not helping. It's growing. And the lack of discipline is also a problem. Now, the enforcement being impartial when they enforce the laws is not also helping. It's making it harder for motorcycle riders who are being singled out in situations like the motorcycle lane. What we want to see here is fair treatment on the road. And with that fair treatment, we focus on the root cause of the problem, which is the discipline issue. There's no more road courtesy. And when we ply the roads, for example, if there's an exit point coming up, instead of just the right lane taking that exit point, you see 3 lanes being used for other vehicles to exit, thus blocking the other lanes who want to go forward. So the flow of traffic is being affected. So that's why I want them to take it back to the root cause, which is discipline and instilling discipline to the people.
Jobert, hindi ba itong motorcycle lane nga yung magiging solusyon para kumbaga hindi kung saan pumupunta yung mga motorsiklo, they will have a dedicated lane. Disiplina lang ba talaga? Hindi ba parang yun yung parang kumbaga wala ka ng choice yung mas maraming natatraffic, frustration yun kasi kaya nag-change ng lane.
The problem with the exclusivity is the design of the road itself. Like in Commonwealth, we have a lot of exit and entry points along Commonwealth, and we have a lot of establishments along Commonwealth. So the exclusivity does not exist because people will go into these establishments, they will exit the road, they will enter the road, and they will crisscross the lane no matter what they say or what exclusivity they put down to that particular lane. It's the same with EDSA. And the fact of the matter is, it's because of the traffic, that's why people instinctively try to find ways around what's blocking them in front. And this does not happen. It's easier with a motorcycle. That's admitted.
Yes.
But we see this with other vehicles as well. And when you look at Commonwealth as the test bed, after 10 years, it's still a test bed. And it has remained a test bed. There are certain points there that 2 to 3 lanes are being blocked by public transport. And they're not doing anything about it. And that blockage affects the other lanes. Kahit gaano kalapad yung Commonwealth, it still blocks the flow of traffic at some point because several lanes are being occupied when they're not supposed to be occupied, and they're not doing anything about it.
Right.
But
So,
when
Jobert,
it comes to the motorcycle rider, the moment you leave the lane, tapos ka na.
Right. Jobert, is your group or do you have knowledge if other groups are being consulted about this proposal by the government?
Well, before they re-implemented it for this year, we had written to MMDA about it. We had written to LTO about it. The only agency that responded is LTO, but they were pointing us towards the direction of MMDA. MMDA never consulted us. They never even invited us, the same way that they have not answered any of our letters since 2012.
oh, okay. As we know, Jobert, the pandemic has led to, I think, a lot of motorcycle sales. I'm not sure if your group has some data on exactly how much more motorcycles we are seeing now and that are also on the roads with everybody else sharing it. Gaano kalaki nga ba, no, yung jump sa motorcycle owners?
I have the numbers for pre-pandemic, and pre-pandemic, based on the sales of motorcycles as reported by the dealers and importers, manufacturers, we're looking at a number between 12 to 15 million motorcycles on the streets all over the country. Now, with a steady growth of motorcycle sales, especially post-pandemic or post-pandemic, the growth again was there because a lot of people who lost their cars during the pandemic are now turning into motorcycles. And with the influx of delivery services, motorcycle taxi services, so there's a lot more this time. So the estimated number is between 16 and 17 million.
Okay, Jobert. So if like you said, and I think we kind of see the eye to eye on this, that disiplina talaga yung problema. Ano yung nakikita niyong solusyon, no, na mas long term? Enforcement, I mean, we don't really have a good track record with enforcement as well. Is your group pushing to maybe include some sort of road etiquette class in school to DepEd or what have you?
Yeah, we've been trying to contact all agencies involved, or who can give a portion of their capacity to help with the problem. Number one is adding road rules and regulations to the curriculum, which the Philippines has not done so. Dapat matagal na tong ginagawa. Of course, stricter enforcement of road rules and regulations with the help of new technology, with the help of non-contact apprehension. That's very useful. Fighting fire with fire, meaning we put enforcement on the road with the road users, arm them with vehicles with cameras so that they can collect evidence while they ply the road. And of course, enhancing the teeth of our enforcement to make sure that they implement the existing laws. Kasi here's one thing that I want people to realize. When we go to places like Subic and Clark, you notice that the people inside are very disciplined because they know that the rules are being implemented and enforced strictly. But once they leave these places, it's a whole different story. It's like it's like, a bird coming out of its cage.
Jobert, ihabol ko lang may nag-viral kasi na video na kanina may nahuli na Move It rider, parang ilang enforcers yun Tapos possible na mawalan ng license to operate yung Move It rider. Did you see that video?
Yes, and the actions there warrant removal of license talaga.
You agree with that? The way
I agree with that. So kami hindi namin kinukonsinti yung ganyan Kung mali ka And that's one of the biggest problems that we have right now is because in our own backyard, it's very hard for us to do the cleanup. Now, you're going to enforce something that promotes segregation and a little bit of discrimination. It doesn't help. But if we apply the laws equally to everyone, people will participate and people will follow. We've seen it happen before, but this does not help.
All right, thank you so much for weighing in on that with us about the exclusive motorcycle lane. Motorcycle Rights Organization Chairman Jobert Bolanos.
Okay, before we go, just enough time for our big picture for tonight. A lot of you might have seen this going around, and that is photos of the big fire that broke out at the parking lot of the NAIA Terminal 3 earlier this afternoon. According to MIAA, or the Manila International Airport Authority's initial report, 19 vehicles were destroyed in that fire, which is believed to have originated from grass or dry grass in that parking lot. The MIAA said the Rescue and Firefighting Division successfully extinguished the fire by 1:57 p.m. Fortunately, no one was hurt from the incident and flight schedules were not affected. Several vehicles that were burned, however, remain unclaimed. The MIAA has since urged those who parked at the open parking lot to check on their vehicles. Medyo mahirap naman kasi i-claim. Oo, mahirap naman i-claim kung sira na talaga. And maybe those people are not here. They might have flown.
Right.
And then pag uwi nila, doon pa lang nila malalaman.
Pwede pa lang malaman. Pwede pa lang mangyari yun, no? Sa grass fire.
Grass fire.
Investigation is ongoing, but that's
what they're...
But you have to remember also, these cars have fuel. They're very flammable. Kaya ang bilis kumalat.
Tsaka remember yung mga pinag-uusapan lang natin, a couple of months ago sa Benguet na may mga isolated bushfires sa mga damo. So mainit talaga yung panahon.
Okay, speaking of, kasi wala ako ng Friday ng birthday ko eh. So papakain ako.
Ay, wow!
Oh my goodness! Wow, pampahaba ng buhay. Mukhang pansit, pero...
Ito naman nag-abala pa.
Galing pa to sa story ko. Sige nga, yan.
So, so challenge ba to? Kailangan namin kainin on air.
And
happy birthday, Gretchen!
Oo.
Nag-abala pa siya ng flavor.
Bakit may cheese powder?
Hindi, sa totoo lang galing kay Patrick Paes yan. Lasang chicharon.
Oh, wow. Look at Sean.
Ayan. We got a brave soul here. Sean
Guys,
Yao.
it just tastes like dilis. Promise, try mo.
Crickets.
Try mo na, Reese. Kinain ko na.
Which one did you get?
Yung uod.
Uod. Sige, try ko yung cricket. Maanghang ba to? Hindi naman. Sa
Hindi. Ito lasang cheese.
Sir Patrick, para sa'yo to. Happy anniversary to the big story.
Gretchen, happy birthday. Cricket cheer.
Cheers.
It's actually good.
Masarap siya.
Masarap siya.
We got a new...
This is an alternative protein source dahil
It's good.
mahal lang bilihin ngayon. We should